WVUA News at 6 with your award-winning news team, Lynn Brooks, Philip Coleman, weather with Richard Scott, and sports with Gary Harris.
The East Coast is bracing for Hurricane Sandy, and even though that storm system is not heading this way, we may still see some of the effects.
Plus, people from Alabama are getting ready to help. All of that, including the latest on the storm and the forecast, is in our top story at 6. Hurricane Sandy has already washed away part of the Atlantic City boardwalk and is threatening to cripple New York's subway system with a huge surge of seawater. This is actually video of Sandy battering the boardwalk in Atlantic City. From Washington to Boston, subways, buses, trains, also schools, all shut down. Hundreds of thousands of people are under orders to move to higher ground. The question, what's the latest forecast for Sandy? Also, what about any effects on our weather here at home? Here now, Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott.
Hey, Lynn and Philip, good Monday afternoon to you. Right now, Hurricane Sandy making landfall into the southern tip of New Jersey in a huge storm. By the way, a hurricane that is producing a blizzard. How about that for the central and southern Appalachian? In fact, blizzard conditions far south as the mountains in Gatlinburg and parts of North Carolina, that it stretches up towards a portion of West Virginia and parts of western Maine state of Virginia there as Hurricane Sandy does move inland there. A lot of rain, a lot of flooding, and some big time issues. Here locally, it's kind of cold though. 55 down in Tuscaloosa, 52 over in Birmingham. Here's that forecast tonight. How cold is it going to get? Your forecast is straight ahead.
On the East Coast, Sandy could cause unprecedented destruction. It's expected to cause some flooding, snowstorms, and leave millions of people without power.
Karen Khalid is in New York City now with a look at what's happening so far and what's still to come.
The storm is intensifying along the East Coast, the worst of its kind in nearly a century.
This is the most catastrophic event that we have faced and been able to plan for in any of our lifetimes.
Hurricane Sandy could be historic, seen here stretching up the Atlantic from the International Space Station, with crashing waves and flooding hours before the worst of the storm arrives. One early casualty, the HMS Bounty. The ship sank about 90 miles off Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. The Coast Guard rescued 14 crew members. 2 are missing. Meanwhile, officials urge those on land, evacuate if you are asked, stay home if you're not.
Conditions are deteriorating very rapidly, and the window for you getting out safely is closing.
Heating the warning, and we're going. And I'm hoping that I have a house when I come back.
This was rush hour in New York City, a shut-down transit system here, and Washington and Boston. Connecticut state highways closed, and obstacles on the campaign trail too. President Obama left Florida to head straight to Washington to deal with the storm.
We are certain that this is going to be a slow-moving process through a wide swath of the country, and millions of people are going to be affected.
And their families in harm's way that will be hurt either in their possessions or perhaps in something more severe.
Nearly 400,000 people have been evacuated in anticipation of Sandy's arrival. Now it's just a waiting game. Reporting from Lower Manhattan, I'm Karen Khalid.
Alabama residents are certainly familiar with strong storms.
WVUA's Mary Beth Harrison shows us how Tuscaloosa organizations, even students, are using past experiences to help prepare for Sandy.
The worst part is a hurricane is so slow moving. They're so big and they're so slow.
University of Alabama student Blythe Dellinger is from right outside of Washington, D.C. She says the anticipation of the hurricane is the worst part.
The tornado, I heard that one was coming at 4 o'clock. At 4:30, I watched it go past and it was done by 4:35. And I feel like everyone at home has known about it and they're just sitting there waiting for it to get worse and worse and worse. I'm just waiting until that moment where I can't call my house phone and I can't get a hold of anybody.
It is estimated to be one of the worst natural disasters in U.S. history, and Dellinger is not the only one getting ready for it.
Southern Company as a whole has sent over 1,200 resources up the East Coast. Alabama Power Company has sent 600. 50 of those have come from the Western Division.
The American Red Cross has also responded quickly by sending hundreds of emergency response vehicles up the coast, including the Tuscaloosa truck.
they'll be on standby to go ahead and be able to serve hot meals, to give out cleanup supplies, to work in shelters.
And the Red Cross is not stopping there.
In addition to those volunteers, we're currently putting several hundred local volunteers on standby who are making themselves available.
You know, Maryland wasn't expecting a hurricane or at least anything this bad, so they're not prepared, just like we weren't expecting a tornado that bad. It feels really good to know that at least I can't go up there, but we can get more help than we have.
Reporting in Tuscaloosa, Mary Beth Harrison, WVUA News.
For more information on how you can help with disaster relief for Hurricane Sandy, you can go to the American Red Cross website or go to our website. That's WVUATV.com. Click on numbers and links. In Tuscaloosa County, investigators are now saying the search for someone who jumped from a bridge stemmed from a prank.
But they're pursuing some very serious consequences. WVUA's Jennifer Edwards has the story.
To do something like this and you think it's cool to wear one of these cameras on your head, maybe a GoPro camera or something of that nature, and you're going to post it on YouTube, you might get your 15 minutes of fame, but we're going to come after you, whether it be criminally or civilly, in this case also federally.
And this is exactly what's happening, authorities say, to the man seen in this YouTube video jumping from the Northport toll bridge into the Black Warrior River. Sergeant Andy Norris with the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Department says the man in the video has since turned himself in, but he could face federal charges by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers because of the manpower used in the search for him.
You've got the dive team, so you got, 5, 6, 7 people there, and you got the helicopter, and then you got the patrol deputies. There are at least 3 or 4 patrol deputies involved, so at least 10 or 15 people, not to mention Tuscaloosa Fire and Rescue, their dive team had to respond.
The people that were on shift, they were there, but we also had to call in extra personnel just to cover the day-to-day stuff, as well as to get in the water and help search for this young man.
And authorities say not only is the jump illegal, but it's also very dangerous.
Anytime you jump off a bridge into water, you think, well, it's water, it's not going to hurt you, but hitting water from that height, if you hit it wrong, there's so many things that can happen. Internal injuries. When a person jumps off, they're constantly trying to balance themselves. They get a little bit off balance and land on their back or land on their stomach. Then that's just like hitting a concrete pad.
Aside from charges from the Corps of Engineers, the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Department is seeking repayment for the search. Reporting in Tuscaloosa County, Jennifer Edwards, WVUA News.
Norris says authorities are interviewing the suspect. He could face further state charges as well.
Here we come. I don't know if you guys can see me or not. I'm way back here. Lots of kids on Sorority Road tonight. Lots of parents too. We're having so much fun trick-or-treating. Coming up after the break, we'll talk to some of these kids about their great Halloween costumes. Everybody wave!
All right, coming up next in home team weather, it is cold tonight. 55 now in Tuscaloosa. How cold is it going to get? And what about the latest on Sandy? Your forecast is just minutes away.
And LSU week is finally here for the top-ranked Crimson Tide. Gary Harris will begin our coverage tonight in Alabama's home team sports.